We welcome you to the Real Talk session with our Superintendent of Schools, Dr. Morcease J. Beasley. Of course, this is an opportunity for all school leaders and district leaders to hear from you. So we want you engaged. We want you to stay off your cell phones. We want you to listen and certainly be a part of critical discussions that are centered around you and decisions that are being made by our leadership. So without further delay, I would like to welcome to the platform our Superintendent of Schools, Dr. Morcease J. Beasley. If you will give him a round of applause and welcome him. And thank you again for being here today.
Thank you, Jada. Good morning, everyone. Thank you all for being here. I hope you had a great weekend and you went out and participated in the events and service activities for Martin Luther King Jr. holiday. Y'all doing good? Well, I am very excited and always pleased to have the opportunity to engage with our young people. And today, hopefully you have an agenda. We have a pretty, I think a pretty good agenda, but it's really one where we can have some conversation. So we don't want to do all the talking. You'll hear from several of us on today, but we really want to hear from you as well. And I want you to think about not only where you are in your educational journey, but I also want you to think about the influence that you have, because I asked the principals to select students who would then go back to their schools and engage their peers in these conversations. Because clearly I couldn't bring all high school students to one venue and have this conversation. And so it becomes the responsibility of those of us who are in leadership to really continue this conversation. We can send a video out, we can, send an email, we can do those things. But it's nothing like having someone who's informed, who is a leader, to engage with you in some type of conversation. And so today, I would hope that our conversation would be one that you will participate in, that you will be honest and sincere about the topics, because we want you to be honest and sincere. We want you to understand that we really, in our roles, and as you hear from the adults here today, those of us who are, whether I'm the superintendent or someone's over the deputy superintendent or someone over curriculum, we really are here to ensure that you have the best K-12 experience, that you're prepared for your post-secondary experience, whatever you choose that to be. We want you prepared. And so we recognize that the decisions that we make, they impact you. And we take that very serious. I take that very serious because I've been where you are. And I know exactly how the decisions that adults made impacted the opportunities that I had in my life. And so I think that is a weighty responsibility, that my decisions, our decisions, impact your lives. And we don't take that very lightly. And so what I'd like us to do today is engage in a conversation. I'd like you to listen, and I'd like you to engage with the individuals that you will hear discuss the topic with you. I want you to know that as we interact, as I interact, we interact with the Board of Education. You all know, you should know if you don't, you have, as a part of our educational process in the United States, your Constitution requires that education be addressed at the state level. State constitutions, at least here in the state of Georgia, requires that the responsibility of the education, while it is a state, there is a structure, and that means we have a board of education that's elected by those voters in that county. You have 9 members on your board of education elected by your parents if you are not yet 18 and over and old enough to vote. Elected by your parents. The 9 members of the Board of Education have one responsibility, basically 2. They have one employee. That one employee is just the superintendent. Their job, number one job, is to hire a superintendent according to the Constitution of the state of Georgia, and to ensure that we have a balanced budget, that we have a budget approved. The superintendent, that would be me, I am responsible for the day-to-day operations of the school system and I work with everyone who you see here, and I'd like all the staff members to stand. Every staff member, please stand. We are employees, whether they're at the school or central office. All of us are employees. And now, this is what you should understand. When you interact with them, you are interacting with your superintendent. Because the superintendent is responsible ultimately for the day-to-day operations of the school system. So when you talk to your teachers, you're talking to the superintendent. When you speak with your principal, you're speaking with the superintendent. The superintendent is responsible for ensuring that we have the right staff working on the right work in support of our children getting the best education that they deserve to have. So you all may be seated. All of these individuals, we are here to serve. We're here to serve and to ensure. And all of us have been where you are. Every single one of us. Whether it was in Clayton County or some other school system somewhere in this nation, all of us have been where you are. We have been students, whether it was public education or private education or a combination, all of us have gone through the K-12 experience. Maybe in a different time, a different set of adults, but I can assure you, all of us have dealt with many of the issues that you're dealing with. So today, I want to go ahead and get started, and I want the staff members to come, and we're going to engage you. I want you all to start thinking about not only where you are today in your educational journey, but where you need to go. Our commitment in Clayton County is to prepare you all for an uncertain world. You live in an uncertain world. They're calling you all, for the most part, Generation Z. I mean, have you heard that? Have you heard that? If you not have heard that, write that term down, Generation Z, and you need to go study that. You all are one of the first generations that basically are growing up with a computer in your hand. Access to the entire world. The world is really flat for you all. Now, the rest of us, you all are what they call digital natives. You know nothing but digital. The rest of us, we're still trying to play with it and figure it out. We even mess up on it. But you all are digital natives. But everything, whether any knowledge that you want to know, anything you want to know about, any knowledge, you all have access to through your devices. I can assure you, no matter what topic you Google, or Yahoo, whatever search engine you use, you will find information on that topic. And so, there's not a reason for you not to have information. What we have decided as educators, that it is not our job to teach you a bunch of information. You have got to develop the capacity to get information yourself. Our job is to teach you how to think critically so you'll know how to use that information to solve problems. To solve problems. To solve problems. And there will be a many. There are many for you to solve in this world, in your community, in this state, and in this world. So our responsibility is to teach you the 4 C's plus 2 additional C's. Critical thinking, creativity, collaboration, and communication. While we're developing those 4 C's, we're also ensuring that you have citizenship and that you are a person of character. But that is our work. And that's what we're trying to do here in Clayton County. We're trying to create a non-traditional school system. We're trying to raise the bar for all students. We're not trying to model ourselves after other school systems. We are in the process of creating the model. We don't care what people used to think about Clayton County. It doesn't matter what they think about Clayton County. What matters is what we think about who we are. And that's the message. It doesn't matter what other people think. What matters is what do you think about who you are. And when you know who you are and you think well of yourself, then you will do well for yourself. When you know who you are and you think well of yourself, then you will do well for yourself. That's our work. That's our message here in Clayton County. That's why we want to have a conversation with you today. We want you to think well of yourselves, and we want you to do well. We want you to do well. We want you to break every preconceived stereotype that people have of you based on income level or race or culture. You tear up anything, any idea, perception, preconceived stereotype that others may have of you based upon whatever experiences that they may have had or not have had. And you think well of yourselves so you can do well for yourselves. So today is our conversation to elevate not only you that are here, but for you to go back and elevate the conversation with your peers. So we'll follow the agenda. The first person we have is Dr. Lee, and Dr. Lee is over our curriculum instruction and assessment. Basically, she works with the team and teachers to determine what content is being taught in all of our classrooms. So let's give her a hand as she comes.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. I just want to emphasize, if you haven't already discovered, that you have one of the best superintendents around. He truly has your heart and your future in his mindset and in his mission. So let's give him another round of applause. So what I want to do during my brief time with you is to share some of the efforts that we're making as a result of our superintendent and his leadership to ensure more of our students are prepared for the world that awaits them. So, questions that I'll ask of you, that I want you to share with me, what do you wish you had done more of prior to high school? So when you think about your academic preparation, your technical preparation, what do you wish you had done more of prior to high school? Also, when you think about our vision, that upon graduation, that you will be able to live and compete successfully, how prepared do you feel? So, by a show of hands, because you're all high school, right? How many of you feel that upon graduation, your diploma will signify that you are truly prepared for college and or career? Raise your hand. Great. The majority. Excellent. So give yourselves a hand for being to this point, high school. Yeah. Give yourselves a big hand in that. Okay. So, some of the changes that we're making is expanding accelerated and advanced learning opportunities to more of our students. So I'm providing you with a handout. If you would, please retrieve this handout. What we've noticed in our data, and even in our graduate data, some of our students leave more prepared than others for various reasons. But one of the reasons is tied to the education, the courses, the training that they prepared through their K-12 continuum. So for next year, what we are providing is for all of our rising sixth graders will take accelerated math. Now, how many of you took Algebra 1 in middle school? Raise your hand if you took excellent. Excellent. Look, see where you're sitting today? Here at the superintendent's conversation. So we want more of our sixth graders to be prepared for Algebra 1. And did you feel more prepared for math? Yes? Okay, okay. The next change, the next adjustment, again, to increase readiness beyond high school, is that all rising ninth graders will be required to take at least one advanced placement course. All rising ninth graders. In ninth grade, as a freshman, we will set the standard expectation for a rigorous course of study in ninth grade. Raise your hand if you've taken at least one advanced placement course. Do you see? Again, look where you're sitting, here at the superintendent conversation, being identified by your school as leaders who are making an impact. In addition to the ninth graders taking advanced placement, we want our ninth graders to already start career preparation. So we want them to select at least one CTAE pathway. How many of you are very clear on your career pathway and you're in a course of study for your career pathway? So when we look at the job market and the top 3 jobs for the future, we know they're technology-based, right? Information and technology, STEM-based careers, and also finance. And you told me you were doing the dual enrollment for finance, so excellent choice. Our professions for the future. So I wanted to share one more thing, then I'm gonna pause and I wanna hear from you. What do you feel you needed more of and for preparation for high school? But then as we amplify and ramp up these expectations for our rising 6th graders and our rising 9th graders, what considerations should we make for ensuring our students are supported? So keep those 2 questions in mind. So for you, I want you to look at the very last column of the chart that I provided. So I just shared the changes we're making for those particular students, but you, right now, in your high school career, I want you to think about, does your coursework reflect your career aspirations or your after high school aspirations? Do you feel that it's rigorous enough, broad enough? Do you feel that you're getting early career exposure through a CTAE pathway? Do you have mentorships in your career professions of choice? Are you already looking at the demands of what college will require of you? And are you thinking about what will make you stand out among peers? Dr. Beasley mentioned the world is flat. You will be applying for jobs that people all over the world will be applying for. So you must be competitive. So now I'm going to pause and I want to hear, what do you wish you had more of prior to high school? And when you respond, tell me your name and your high school.
Hello, my name is Morcease. I go to Mount Zion High School, and I wish I had more teachers that would teach me, not teach me well, let me have my own space to learn about myself instead of just waiting on a way of thinking that's like that was generations. I want to be able to learn something the way I can get it, because everybody is set up differently, everyone's different. We're all original and we're all unique, so we have more teachers that teachers and administrations and to just allow you to be yourself and learn at your own pace instead of being rushed and feel like you need to be
Students echoing. So essentially what I hear is individualized and relevance. So learning that is relevant to you as a student, but also the world, but also individualized at your own pace. And we live in I would just say a world where there's individuality and then there's interconnectivity that must occur too. And so as our students are engaged in the learning environment, we want them to be able to learn as they see fit, but also be able to collaborate with their peers during opportunities as well. Okay, one more. When you think about what's required of you in high school, what do you wish you had more of prior to high school?
I got this.
Oh, thank you. Go ahead first. Okay.
Well, next.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Jalen Tucker. I teach at Stillwell School of the Arts. Before high school, I think I wish I had more college preparatory standards, things that could help me understand college and things that would help me sign up for college.
Thank you for sharing that. And that's a given hand. Thank you. Thank you so much. And as you can see, that aligns to our superintendent's vision that more of our students will have that college preparatory experiences. So it will not be a culture shock once you're in college.
My name is Elijah. And I just feel like I wish I had a push. Because, teachers, they have like a sub every 2 weeks. There's subs every day in each class. And like teachers, like, they'll teach, but they'll basically went on UGA and here, and now he's in accounting, making big money. And, especially coming from a strict family, education is everything. Education comes first before anything, and I just feel like we all just need that push, as someone teacher, Steve Ball with students.
And then just quick, give him a hand. Knowing about dual enrollment.
Well, I don't know about dual enrollment because my teacher, Mr. Bride, she would try to start her students and put them on push. So she tried to get all her students involved with dual enrollment. Try to get them on like SATs. Yeah, we teach them like her.
Thank you so much. Thank you. She was teacher of the year too. So you all, thank you for your comments. I know we only had a short period of time together, but again, I want you to pay attention to that far right column on your document that says there's some considerations for you. Have clearly established goals and revisit them often. So be sure that you have goals and that you're consistently assessing if you're on track for meeting your goals. Examine your current courses of study for relevance for your future goals. Take full advantage of any extended learning opportunities. So if you're in advanced placement, we have AP Saturday academies, we have before and after school opportunities, there are programs that you can sign up for. So your counselor is your teachers and your principals, but your counselors, they're aware of those various options. And so that's why I have on here the final bullet, to speak with your counselor often to explore other opportunities. And so at the bottom, I've listed some helpful websites for you. The Khan Academy is a great resource. How many of you use it? Excellent. We just have to. So really, your job is to share this when you leave here, okay? So be sure to share this with your peers. And I've also included the GeorgiaFutures.org that talks about career preparation and what colleges are requiring of graduates. You have to spend your time now preparing for later. I cannot emphasize that enough. Your competitor is preparing. So you have to consistently prepare for your future. And then on here you see other opportunities. And I want to just emphasize that bottom right box. Civic engagement and service projects. When colleges receive your applications, your scholarship essays, they're looking to see what makes you stand out. And that's really beyond your GPA. So what are you doing regularly to make yourself unique and just awesome in comparison to other peers who may be applying for that seat at the college? So again, thank you for your feedback. It would definitely be considered and taken into consideration as we plan for our rising students. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Lee.
Thank you, Dr. Lee. Before the next person comes, I wanted to make sure that you all saw in your packet the questions. And these are what you have here is information that our teachers should be using and are using in our classroom. Our goal is to get you to be very comfortable with being in quadrant D. You all see quadrant D? You see the type questions that are in quadrant D? If you're not getting those type questions every day in every classroom, in every course, then we're not doing what we need to do to prepare you for the jobs that exist or don't exist. And also, Dr. Lee has given you a handout. I believe this will be sent to you electronically, information about advanced learning. But you also received this today. Did you get this? No? Not yet? Let's go ahead and pass that out to them. We decided to pull some indicators, not academic indicators, because we know our academic data, but we wanted you all to see we're the 5th largest school district in the state of Georgia, and we wanted you to see some indicators about Clayton County as a whole relative to other counties that we're often compared to. And so this is called a real talk conversation. So I want you to take a second. Once you get it, I want you to take a second. Clayton County is highlighted in yellow. I want you to look at the various indicators and look at where Clayton is located in comparison to the other counties that we have listed there. They're larger than we are. clearly and in population. But look at those indicators. So take a second to look at those indicators. Put a mark next to one or two that is really of interest to you, that really grabs your attention. One or two. Put a mark on your paper next to one or two that really grabs your attention. If you don't have a pen, just make a mental note about one or two that really grabs your attention. Which one grabs your attention first of all? Median income, raise your hand if that one grabs your attention. What did you notice about Clayton's median income? It's the lowest, isn't it? Do you pay lower for your gas? Do you pay lower for your food? Do you pay lower for your car notes? You think your parents pay lower for car notes because they come from Clayton? Do you think that your parents are going to pay lower for your college tuition just because you come from Clayton? Have I made my point? But what do you think is also not as high as the other counties relative to education? What's the percent of college degrees? How many? There is a direct relationship between the level of a county's education and the median income in a county. And so, if we want to improve our median income, what do we have to do in Clayton County? We've got to improve the number of persons with a college what? Degree. There is also a direct relationship. When you have a college education, the more education you have, the less unemployment or the less episodes of unemployment you experience. In other words, the less education you have, oftentimes you have more episodes of unemployment. Why is that important? Because if you're unemployed, are you making money? Do you stop having needs because you're not making money? So if you're unemployed and you're not making money, do you still get hungry? So you gotta have what? Does your house still get cold if it's cold outside? So you gotta have money so you can pay for your what? Your heat, your utilities, right? You gotta have lights. The point is this. Education is so important. And I know somebody, oh, it doesn't matter, but it does matter. Because we have in our society recognizes, whether you like it or not, our society recognizes and rewards those who are educated with more opportunities and less unemployment versus those who are uneducated. And guess what? When you decide not to get educated, that doesn't mean they're going to give you a discount. You're going to have to pay the same car note, car insurance like the rest of us. But you'll have less money to do it with. Y'all hear me? Y'all hear me with your heart? So is it in your best interest not to get educated? I didn't hear y'all. Is it in your best interest not to get educated? Who are you hurting if you're not educated? You're hurting yourself. You're not hurting anybody in here with a college degree. Your relatives, your friends. People say, oh, education is not important. We could go through this whole list, but this list right here shows you that education is what? Important. Would you go into a store, a mall, to buy something without cash? Or some type of money? No, because currency is needed to get you what you want. Remember this, write this down. Education is your currency to navigate this country and this world. And so I'll turn it over to the mic at this point. But I want to say this. In the United States, we have about a little over 300 million. I want to say 317 million people here. India has over 1 billion people. China has over 8 billion people. In the next 10 years, China will be the #1 economic engine in the world. India will be #2. The United States will be #3. It doesn't matter to you today, but those billion people in India, they understand that they got to compete with those 320 million people in the United States in this global environment. So guess what they're doing? They're taking more advanced placement courses, more math and sciences. Why? So they can get in your universities here in the United States. Chinese are taking more math and sciences, coming to the United States on visas to get in your universities. Emory University, right here in Atlanta. Where do y'all think most of their students come from? Where? Doesn't come from Atlanta, I can tell you that. Most of the students at Emory, over 50% of the students at Emory come from Asia. More power to the Asians, Chinese and Indians. But if you all as American students, if you all as United States citizens or residents, if you allow yourselves to allow others to get more educated than you are and take all the high income jobs and leave you with all the service jobs, guess what? We should be of no surprise when we see that they have more wealth, access to more opportunity than those of us here with lower paying jobs. Y'all hear me? Because whether you take advantage of it or not, I can assure you, we get a little Americanized. We don't, we just take for granted our educational system. But there are a lot of folk who didn't have access to the rights that you have as American citizens, born here, and they know the value of an education to lift up them out of their situations. And they are doing exactly what they need to do to be the CEOs, the Bill Gates, starting their own digital companies that are making billions of dollars selling you stuff that you buy, that we buy, but we buy on a lower income. Somebody say, real talk. I hope y'all hear me. See, I know y'all are thinking just Clayton, but you are one county among 180 in Georgia, one state among 50 in the United States, one nation among 180 plus nations in the world. And guess what? I know that America has this way of saying, making it look like every other country is backward. They call them third world countries. Don't be surprised when you go to Dubai and Shanghai and you go to Delhi, I believe it's Delhi and India and all these other countries, if I said it right. Don't be surprised when you go to their cities and they got more modern technology and advances than we do in the United States. Why? Because while we're busy putting other people down, they're taking care of their business and they're ramping up themselves. And now they're our competition. So don't let America's pride get to you. We should be proud to be American citizens. But make no mistake, America has to live in a global world, and we're just one among many. And I'll conclude with this. We have less than 5% of the world's population, but we have over 25% of the world's prisoners. We love putting folk in prison here. I read an article in the New York Times that says over half of America, 50% of Americans, know someone in their family who has either been in jail or out of jail on parole. Something is wrong with this nation. When half of us have relatives who've been through the criminal system. But we, law and order, we believe in law and order. Maybe we got too many laws. When half of our folk have been through prison. And that disproportionately affects communities of color because of racist policies and approaches that this nation has had for many years. And that's why when you come to school, safety and security is important to us. But we need it not to just be important to us, come on, Chief. We need it to be important to you. It ain't about just safety and security today. We're trying to help us have a mindset because you don't have to go to a prison or a jail for someone to tell you when to eat, when to sleep, when to go to bed, when to do everything, and take your right to vote, which the Constitution allows them to do once they abolish slavery. There's one amendment, I believe it's the Amendment 13, that says you can become a slave if you are a prisoner, if you go to jail. And so what has happened in our country, the prison system has been used to replace the slave machine. We abolished slavery, but we ramped up prisons. And people lose their rights when they go to prison. Does it matter, y'all? Does it matter? Well, it does. Because other people who are not in prison, in the White House, on Capitol Hill, they're making decisions that impact your life. And if you go to prison and you lose your right to vote, that means other people make decisions about your life, impact your life, your children, and you have no say. Come on, Chief. All right. I know we got to keep it moving. This is real talk today.
Real talk. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. You know, what Dr. Beasley just mentioned is extremely important. I believe in restorative justice. I think we have to change some practices. But before we talk about that, because I think Dr. Beasley delivered the message and I think you received it. But let me tell you, real talk. Say real talk. My heart's pretty heavy right now. I was late getting here because I was dealing with a situation in the district that someone in this room may be contemplating. And I'm frustrated with it. You know, I have two topics that I have to talk about. One is bullying and one is active shooter, but there's a correlation between bullying and what I'm about to talk to you about. And let me tell you this, nothing in this world that you're going through right now is so bad that you will contemplate taking your life. Do you understand that? Answer me. Yes. Because my heart's heavy because I left the school because we had a child to take their life. Suicide. There is nothing that you could be going through right now that should cause you to even have the thought of taking your life. There are too many of us around. Too many of us around. If you feel that things are going on, let someone know. That's what we're here for. Let me share something with you. Everybody in this room that works for this district loves you. Do you understand that? Answer me. Yes. See, you all are our future. You're all we got. You understand? That's why Dr. Beasley was up here telling you how important it is to have an education, to pursue an education, because he showed you some stats where if your community does not have degrees, of course your income is what? It's low. So what I want you to do, don't create barriers for yourself. And one barrier is bullying. Why would we do that? What we need to do, instead of tearing each other down, we need to be doing what? Building each other up. Don't get into this hype. Don't get into, love and hip hop, and all we do is fight and argue and tear each other down and have disparaging things to say about other people. That's not the way to do this. Because if I can pull her up and I'm making a commitment to her to pull somebody else up, we all come up, right? So if we have education, Clayton County does what? It comes up. Instead of being at the bottom, we'll be at what? At the top. So that's our goal. Our goal, and you know, I'm an old guy. You know, my son, I was with my son this weekend, he's 29, and you know, he just swears he knows more than me. Right? And you guys feel that way about your parents, don't you? I know you do. But what I want you to do is I want you to listen to your parents, I want you to befriend one another, I want you to be encouraging to one another. Because we have to do that. We have to turn this around. And the only way we can do it starts with you guys, okay? So, another topic that I want to talk about is active shooters. You know, the climate and culture in America now, and some of it has a direct link to the bullying, where you have a young man like at Parkland, he felt that he wasn't included. He felt that probably from an education perspective, he wasn't going to do well. So he decided to go and get some weapons and come back to the school and shoot up the school. So what we're doing now, we're trying to be proactive. And the first steps that we're doing is we're doing assessments of the schools. We want to know exactly where we sit and what parameters we have in place in the event we have an active shooter. Now God knows that's not what we want, but we have to be prepared in the event it happens here. But most importantly, we have to understand that you all know what your roles are as well. Because one thing that was discovered in Parkland was that the students really didn't know what to do. And that's the last thing I want. I want us, if we have an active shooter situation, I want to make sure that we have our processes in place, the administration knows what to do, but last but not least, you guys know what to do as well. So that's what we're doing. We're going out now, we're conducting assessments of our schools, and we're educating the staff and the administration to apprise them of what the protocols are, how we should respond, and what we should have in the event of an active shooter. After we do the assessment and the informative piece, every school and facility in Clayton County Public Schools will have a drill. We'll have a test of some sort to make sure that we know what we're doing and that you know what you all should do. Okay? Now, how many of you all think that that's a good idea? Are you willing to help and support us with that endeavor? Okay? Because you all are here at the Real Talk session, and what this tells me that you all are leaders in the school. Are you all leaders? Absolutely. And I want you all to help us take a stand and make sure that we're prepared in the event we have any kind of situation that arises, that we're here to make a difference and save lives. So Dr. Beasley, we're going to have a question and answer session at the end?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So at the end, if you have any questions, whether it's about bullying, whether it's about school safety, you name it, you'll have that opportunity to ask me. But now I'm going to turn the mic over to the next speaker to give some additional updates. And thank you, okay?
Thank you, Chief. Welcome to the podium, our Deputy Superintendent of School Leadership and Improvement, Dr. Ralph Simpson. Thank you.
Good morning. How y'all doing? Can y'all hear me? How y'all at? Can y'all hear me? So check this out. All right. I'm going somewhere with it, so you got to follow. All of what Dr. Beasley just stated and Dr. Lee, the real truth of the matter is you need to get this so you won't end up like me. And you probably sitting there, what do you mean, like me? So when Dr. Beasley, he said something you didn't get. He mentioned something about this advanced learning and exposing you to advanced placement courses or classes. It's important for you to take that so that when you become a senior, graduating senior, you take a test, if you have to, based upon your SAT score, called an AccuPlacer. That's to determine whether you are prepared for the college level work. If you are not prepared, then you're going to take some classes in college where you won't get credit. That's ending up like me. Let me weigh you down. So I did not fare well on that acuplacer. They called it something else at the time. That means that I had to take some learning support classes. They cost the exact same amount as a regular college class, except that you get 0 credit. The exact same amount as a regular college class with no credit. So imagine taking a class that you get no credit. Listen, I thought I had advanced the P's and F level. Because I usually get a pass or fail. I thought I was in college and I was getting an A, B, C, D, hopefully not an F or a D, but I got a P in college. No credit. I took these classes my entire freshman year. I spent about $2,500 and I had 0 credits at the end of my first year. So the point in exposing you to this advanced learning and these courses is to better prepare you so that you won't waste your folks' money. So we don't want you to end up like me. That's the goal. We don't want you to end up having to take some classes that you don't get any credit for. So if you don't understand the importance of it, that's why it's important. I'm listening to give some updates about attendance and discipline, and all I'll tell you is that discipline is down. It's down because of who you are and what you're doing. You say that you are the leaders, you're the leaders of influence, or you're the people of influence. All I'll say is continue to influence. Continue to influence those, because I know you sit in a classroom with children that don't come to school every day to get an education. If that's the case, raise your hand. If you know that there's some students in your class that come to school every single day with no intent on getting an education, raise your hand. Put your hands down. And you probably say nothing to them. Well, let me explain something to you. If they are disruptive to the point of where that teacher has to take time out of their strategies or the time and efforts that they are to teach and instruct you, if your class lasts 60 minutes and they have to take 20 out to deal with that 1 or 2 disruptive students, that means you get less of an education. That means that you're going to be less prepared. That means that when you sit to take the acuplacer, then it's likely that you won't fare well and you end up like me. Now, I'm not asking you to check that kid. I'm asking you to do that. But if you are a peer of influence, you have the ability and you have the relationship with your colleagues, your homeboy, your homegirl, whatever it is. You need to be able to send a subtle message to you. Say, look, you heard both of us. However you want to do it in your own way, you got to figure that out. Because the class or the classroom or the school is not the place for disruption. Dr. Beasley asked you all, I think Dr. Lee maybe asked you all to put your phones up. I need for you all, just remember, you can log this in your number. Hashtag think before you post. Hashtag think before you post. I want you to look at that information. There's some students in Gwinnett County that have decided amongst themselves to get together and campaign around this whole issue of think before you post. Why is that important? Because you know when someone posts something inappropriate or threatening, we have to lock down the school and sometimes we have to evacuate. Guess what happens in the case of a lockdown? Is there any teaching going on? That means there's no learning taking place. That means you're not prepared to take the active place. That means you end up like me. That's a disruption, folks. All of this matters. Think before you post. You got to check your home girl. You got to check your home boy. Because if you don't, I'm telling you, you don't want to waste your folks' money like that. You don't want to spend it. You don't want to spend a year in that type of a situation, so it all matters. You know, one of the important things we definitely want to discuss with you, and I checked out like y'all came through it. I was checking out your shoes and jeans and the way you were rocking. I mean, y'all check y'all fly. That's old school. Y'all don't know what fly is. So I'm gonna bring it down to you. So here's the deal. The way you dress is the way you'll be addressed. That went over some of y'all head. I'm saying that again. Y'all thought that? You thought that? You thought that? Look, get it. So the way you dress is the way you'll be addressed. I'm gonna give you another. So your appearance is your table of contents. You open up a book, it's a table of contents, right? Table of contents says everything about the book. Your appearance is your table of contents. So I sized you up when you came through the door. I already know what's in the book. Because I'm prejudging, I'm stereotyping you based upon the way you dress. Hey, that's the world we live in. That's what people do. And they can be wrong. That assumption, that stereotype, that perception, it can be wrong. I'm just telling you that's what they do it, off the cuff. That's what they do. What we're saying, and last month at the board meeting, I recommended to the board that we go away from uniform or requiring uniform dress for high school. Did y'all know that? Many of you did, you took the survey. What we're saying is that we want to spend our efforts and our emphasis on making sure that you get to class, first off, that you come to school. Second, that you get to class on time, that you're prepared, and that that teacher can teach, and so that you can learn, so we don't have to spend time worrying about your clothes. Now, let me explain how this is going to go, if it passes. Because I'm recommending it to the board again on February 4th. Feel free to come. That's an open invitation if you support that. But here's what the expectation is going to be. So many of us are firm believers that there's nothing inappropriate about the clothing. It's just inappropriate the way some people wear it. You can sag uniform pants. You can figure out how to put on a blouse or a shirt that may meet the uniform requirements inappropriately. But what we're saying is that there is still going to be an expectation. You know what that expectation is? Just what you have right now. Every last one of you met the expectation of the way a student is supposed to look when they walk into one of our schools. And it's not a uniform. I don't see a uniform, but you look appropriate. You look great. That's the way you're supposed to look. And we know you can look great without having to wear a certain pair of pants or a certain shirt or blouse. But I want you to know, as people of influence, you got to carry that message. Because guess what's going to happen? If we see that there are challenges and issues associated with your freedom and your individuality, then I have to answer to that. Because the board is going to be looking at me as Dr. Simpson, you recommended this. You said that you all had to support. You convinced us that the students would be able to meet the dress standard and expectation. And they did. Discipline is on the increase. Then y'all make me look like I didn't know what I was talking about. Look, we're trying to support you all. We want to focus on education. Is that what y'all want to focus on? Yes. Is that what y'all want the focus to be on? Do you want the focus to be on what you're wearing to school? But you gotta wear it appropriately. Would you agree with that? Yes. Do you all know what appropriate looks like? I can pick any one of you all out for it. I mean, my man right here, he dropped the suit and tie and all that, so he took it to a whole nother level. I appreciate that. But I can pick out either one of you and you are appropriate. I just close my eyes and point, and you are appropriate. That's what we want you to look like every day. That's expressing your individuality. And we know you can do that. Because we know we have great children in our school district. But y'all can't let them down. Y'all can't let us down, because if y'all let us down, then we're going to really have a problem. And I know some of you have maybe 2 years, maybe 3 years, if you're a ninth grader, you find yourself back in khaki pants and polo style shirts again. We don't want to go backwards, we're going forward. Y'all want to go forward? Yes. Y'all want to move forward? Yes. Y'all sound a little bit more convincing because it's a board, man. It's your chance. Y'all really need to put some enthusiasm in that voice. I'm going to ask y'all one more time. Do you all support this? Yes! I ain't trying to bribe y'all with that. But I am. Mrs. Craig, I'm not trying to bribe him, I promise you. Y'all give it up for Mrs. Craig. I'll hold him in. So I'm gonna pass the mic on to oh, one last thing. HBCU promise. So for those that don't know what that's about, we started out at the beginning of the school year wanting, and you all see this because many of you all attend the high school commencement exercises, graduations, because you might have siblings or your peers or friends might be graduating. This is where we want to go. We want every student to walk across the stage, and when we call their name, that we call out the name of the college or university that they are attending. So, one example, Ralph Simpson, University of West Georgia. That's what we want, every name that we call. Well, we beat up that promise by making sure and engage in relationships and partnerships and challenge the historically black colleges and universities to offer our students a certain number of scholarships. We challenge them and say, look, we have over 2,500 seniors that will be graduating. We want you all to set aside scholarships for those students. And they took us up on that challenge. And they started out coming up to us, hey, I have 30, I have 50, I give you 45. So we expect that those students, those graduating seniors, whether it be a historically black college, university, or college of their choice, we don't care where it is, but we have a partnership with those. In addition to that, for every senior in this district, they have the opportunity to fill out an application for about 75 colleges and universities, HBCUs, without having to pay an application fee, because you know application fees are running up to about $50, $75. We cover the cost of that. One-time application goes out to all the colleges and universities. So guess what's going to happen? When they see that these students are from Clayton County, they're going to think back to the number of seats that they've allotted to the students in Clayton County. Y'all see where I'm going with this? Hey, this is promise, folks. We want you to go to school. We want you to get that education. And we're trying to make it as easy for you as possible. Listen, we're going to take you to the well. We're going to take you to the well. Y'all know the rest, right? What's the rest? Can't what? Can't what? Can't make you drink. We're going to give you all the opportunities as possible. Ready to take it? Oh, last thing y'all like this. We're changing the school start time. Y'all saying yes, you don't know what it is. Clap. You don't know what time it is. Don't tell you what time it is. 9:30. No, I'm just playing. I'm just playing. All right, no, seriously. For a number of reasons, we believe that high schools need to start early. And so, let me finish on me down. You're trying to introduction. You thought it was going to be later? Of course not. No, not that much later. So your start time is going to be 8:15. And you'll be, I know you thought you, and you'll be dismissing at 3:30, 3:05. So there are a number of reasons why. This has an impact on a lot of things. One, we noticed that, and it's just not athletics, it's just not about that, but for those that participate in extracurricular activities where you have to travel and be transported, we found that we're getting that either just at the start of the event or only a short amount of time before the event starts. So we want to be prepared and warm up like the other teams that we're competing against. This also impacts our late arrivals. If you are on a bus that's late to get to school, this is going to cut down on the number of buses that's getting kids to school late. And so there are a number of other factors that I won't go into, but we'll share that information with you. So just know that, write that down. 7:45 to 3:05 will be your new start time. So go to bed early. All right? 8:15. 8:15, I'm sorry. Let me turn that over to Dr. Beasley. Y'all welcome to the attendance.
Thank you, Dr. Gibson. Okay, young people, you've heard from us. I want you to use your influence, and you're going to have these conversations, but you all, it's just a different day, and I want you all to know you live in a different day. Y'all got to hear, and you got a superintendent. I grew up in the 70s and the 80s, and I have 4 children who are in the 20s and older, and so, I've seen and I know to some degree what you're going to have to deal with. You need to go to college, whether it be a junior college, a technical college, a 4-year college. All of you got to get some training beyond high school. You got to do that. You got to, whether you earn an associate degree, some type of credential, you do yourself a disservice. Your income, the data is very clear. The more education you have, the higher the median income. And remember, the median is right in the middle, right? Half are above and half are below. I want our students in Clayton to be in the upper half of the income levels. But that can only occur if we get the education and the training that we need. Doesn't matter. Career technology, academics, you got to get training. You got to understand what you're seeing today, and that's why we're having this conversation. Mr. Strake, I didn't even know he was back there, but welcome. Your board members have got to make a decision. They've got to vote on that recommendation that Dr. Simpson has shared that he made about moving away from uniform at the 9-12 level. You got to understand, you got to be involved politically. He's invited you to the board meeting. You should come. If you can't come, you all should have representation from your various schools. Why? Because a decision is being made that will impact you. Whenever someone is at a table to make decisions about you, if they don't invite you to the table, that's okay. You go to the table anyway. Right now, the General Assembly at the Gold Dome downtown is in session at the Capitol. We have students that are at the Capitol every day. Why? Because it's our commitment. Remember I said citizenship, one of those C's. You need to know what's going on. Those people down there are making decisions about you that impact your lives. You need to understand. I know it's not appealing and attractive to know what's going on down there. But let me tell you this, they will probably make decisions that impact your life more than it will our lives. What's happening in Washington? Congress, their decisions are going to impact you. Their decisions about school loans and the skyrocketing cost of college tuition, that's going to impact you. So I want you all to get more informed. And I know all of you most of you are probably on social media. But temper that by also reading, going to your CNNs and your BBCs and learning about what's happening in the world, your Washington Post. I guess y'all can see what I read. But get informed. Learn how to tell the difference between real news and fake news. Yeah, you better know how to figure out the sources and if it's a valid and a credible source or source that's not credible. And those are the skills that we've got to be teaching in our schools today. So, young lady with is that a laptop I see on you had a question? A comment?
And if I may, we have microphones to my left and to the right of the room. If you would come to the microphones as we are recording this event, we would love to follow up if need be with any questions. So we want to make sure that we have recorded your feedback, okay? I do have a floater mic for the most part. If you can go to my left, your right.
What I would suggest, let's just go one at a time so we don't get a bunch of folk at the mic. One at a time. And then once we address those questions, then we'll call on the next. Come on, one person at the mic at a time.
Hello?
State your name and the school that you attend. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Fatia Altishe. I go to Martha Ellen Stillwell School of the Arts. And this was, I guess it's a question. I just feel like when you guys go to your counselors or whatever, my counselors in my school, they're not really any help for me because we have to make appointments in order to see them, and I'll make various appointments. I never get, I don't get them to contact me back. And I'm a sophomore, so I want to do dual enrollment next semester when I'm a junior. And so I have to take the SAT, obviously. So I applied for the SAT for March, and I was trying to talk to my counselor about it, but she never got back to me and what else I need to do in order to do dual enrollment. So I would just say that I feel like counselors need to be more at reach when it comes to students actually trying to talk to them. So yeah, that's it.
And I'm going to give you an assignment. Now, we made a note of that, still will. But I want all of you to know that there is one person at your position who's responsible for everything in your school. Who is that? The who? And so, if there's a concern, I say that you had done this, I would expect you to make sure your principal is aware of that challenge. But now that we've heard it, because we believe in taking the information we hear and doing something with it. Now that we've heard it, we're going to follow up. But I want to tell you, if you've not given your principal an opportunity to hear that concern, to address, then I need you to go back and make an appointment to see your principal, or while he's in the hall or visiting classrooms or what have you, make a point to let him know of that concern, okay?
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for sharing.
Hi, my name is Varsity Jefferson. I also go to Stillwell. Ignore my outfit, it's Spirit Week. Well, I want to go back to the bullying thing. Personally, I was bullied, so I get it or whatever, but what I want to say is, you were saying that a lot of the time it's students or your peers that break you down or whatever, and we should be the ones building each other up. A lot of the times it's not always the students. Sometimes it's even the teachers who make you feel less than all of their students, or even at home, parents will bring you down and make you feel less of yourself. And so I guess what my question would be is, what would you do to help fix the things that go on at school with teachers? And I know you can't really do much at home, but like, what can you do about that?
Good question. That's a great question, and thank you for that comment as well as that question and your courage. Being a teacher is to me a calling. And I don't want to think or believe that we have teachers that came to this profession to truly not to uplift children instead of breaking them down. That tells me that if that is the case, then while we have assumed that they all come to work and come to teach with that calling, with that moral responsibility, if that is the case, one thing I've always said, we can teach people how to teach, but we can't teach them how to love. If they don't love children, then as Dr. Beasley indicated, that it is the principal's ultimate responsibility to be able to assess and identify whatever is going on in that school, whatever the culture and climate in that school. If that principal does not know we have a teacher or has a teacher that does not care about a child or children, then it's the responsibility of that principal to identify who that teacher or who those teachers are. Because we hold that principal accountable for doing such. When he or she has done that, then we have processes and procedures that we have to either help this teacher out or help this teacher out. Does that make sense? That's what we can do on our end. That's a hard thing, though. You understand what I'm saying? I wish I could teach people how to love, but I can't. But if you don't love children, I say to teachers all over the district and anywhere if I have an opportunity to address them. If you don't love children, leave. Just don't do that. Don't do that to a child. But if that is the case, that is the process. But if we have a love issue, to me those people stick out like a sore thumb. But obviously that's a conversation while we may have assumed. That's a conversation that we have to include when we talk to teachers, and we'll do that.
And if I may, you mentioned something else that's important. You mentioned at home. Sometimes, and I'm a parent and I'm a grandparent, sometimes we get so caught up in the day-to-day and, paying bills and getting those groceries and making sure that our families are taken care of, to where sometimes our mouths get us in trouble and we don't realize what we're saying. So what I recommend you do is, not at the height of a confrontation, but when everything is settled, just have a talk with your parent and let them know how a particular conversation made you feel. And that helps with the situations at home, because I had to do that with my children. Just sit down and say, well, Daddy, you hurt my feelings. And of course now, when they told me I hurt their feelings, it hurt my feelings because that wasn't the intent. But had they not come to me, or if they didn't come and say, Daddy, this is how I felt, or this is how I feel when you do A, B, and C, then I didn't recognize that I made a mistake. We're parents, we're not perfect, we make mistakes, And if you bring it to our attention, quite often we try to rectify it. So I didn't think about that dynamic when it comes to tearing people down and lifting people up. but you have to have conversations and you have to express how you feel. And I'm sure the dynamic will change. Does that help?
Yes.
All right.
Let me a little bit more.
Okay.
No, I got to stop right there. So I suffer from verbal abuse from my dad. He never told me love you, never gave me a hug, never wished me a happy birthday. None of that. But he provided. Everything that I need, you know, food, shelter, clothing, I got all that. I wanted the love. I mean, I'm talking verbal abuse at the worst. For family, everything that I could possibly imagine, or you could possibly imagine. I'll tell you what I did. I had a twist to that. But everything that he said that I wouldn't become, I set out to prove him wrong. In my mind, I'm like, dude, I'm going to show you. He told me once that you'll never own and be able to buy the type of house I was able to buy. He talked about how he was able to do that at 28. Well, I was able to do that at 25. And guess what? I called him out. I said, dude, you remember you told me that I wouldn't be able to buy a house like this? I did mine 3 years before you did yours. So, yes, he broke me down. But the spirit within me, and that's what you all need to understand. You got to believe in you. You got to love you. You have to believe that there is no one else out there can say anything to you about you that will make you think any less than yourself. You have to wake up every single morning. Do this. When you wake up in the morning, when your feet touch the floor, just stand up and just start clapping. Give yourself a standing ovation every single morning that you wake up. You understand what I'm saying? You have to look in the mirror every morning that you wake up and realize, and you tell yourself that you are out to be the best that you can be every single day. You're in competition with yourself. You're trying to outdo yourself every day. And you can do that internally. That's your message to yourself. People talk about self-esteem. Think about what self-esteem of the self. I can't take your self-esteem. That belongs to you. No one else. No individual, no one that breathes the same air as you breathe can take anything away from you, despite what they say. You only answer to what you call. What's your name?
Varsity.
That's what you answer to. Nothing else. Anyone calls you anything else other than that, don't answer. Don't turn around and say, because what's your name?
Varsity.
That's what you answer to. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I was going to say, Dr. Simpson mentioned his situation growing up. I want you all to write this word down, resilience. Resilience. I wish I could tell you you all want to leave this world and not deal with people that want to bully or not deal with people who would try to diminish you. But the truth of the matter is our world is full of a whole lot of unhealthy people. And I would be setting you up for failure if I told you everybody's going to be nice to you. Everybody's going to be polite to you. Everybody's going to speak well of you. Everybody's going to just adore the ground you walk on. Everybody's just going to respect who you are. It will not be the case. But as long as you respect who you are, and you are well, then you'll do well. Remember, it's not what people say about you, not what people even call you. It's like Dr. Simpson said, it's what you answer to. But most importantly is what you think of yourselves. What do you think of yourselves? This young man is really sharp. Looking good.
Good morning. My name is Michael Womack, and I attend Morrow High School Magnet. And so my question is about the conditions of the schools. So in our classrooms at Morrow, we have a rat infestation and also a roach infestation. And so I don't feel like it's healthy for us to sit in those classrooms with rats running around and things of that nature. And it's also with the Magnet School, it's new. So also the roof is caving in. And so we want to know what's going to happen to us as students.
Okay, have you had a conversation with your principal?
Yes.
Okay, did your principal answer any of those questions?
She brought us here to speak to you.
She did. Did she answer? Did she answer any of those questions to you? So clearly, She said she brought it to me, right? And she should have, and we had a conversation, didn't we? And we have implemented some solutions, and she should be following up with who? See, that's that one of those critical, the 4 C's, communication. And so to answer your question about the rats and the roaches, we have pest control there, but we also have to remind students stop eating all over the building too. Because when you eat all over the building and you drop food, guess what that does? It attracts rodents. So there's a responsibility there, but we are working with our pest control to address that. Relative to the roof, who is getting a new high school in the next SPLOST? Jonesboro is started now in this current SPLOST, but guess who else is getting a new high school? Morrow High School is getting a new high school within the next 2 years or so. You'll have a new school. So, give them a hand for a new school. So, he mentioned roofs. There is a portion of Morrow High School that is being used, some of it off limits, and the roofs are getting worse by the day. So we had to make a decision. Do we put a lot of money in a roof that we will eventually tear down, or do we manage and maybe use the trailers, etc.? And so we discussed that with your principal, and your principal is working with the team to ensure that no one is in a compromised situation where their safety is compromised, that you all can have an environment where you're getting your learning. It may be in those trailers, so we will eventually phase out of using that portion of the building that is so old that would require so much money that would be a waste of money for us to put in, because we're in the process of designing your very new school in order to get it built. Okay? Isn't that a good thing? Give them a hand. Look at sharp too.
First of all, I want to say good morning to everybody.
Good morning.
I'm Jordan Madden from Mount Zion, and I just wanted to elaborate on your academics and what you spoke on that. From when I was in elementary school, my 5th grade year to my 8th grade year, we always had CTE and STEM programs like that. I just wanted to know if we could have maybe have them in all classes. Like we didn't have just a CTA portion. We did it in math, we did it in science. We always had a hands-on thing that would relate to present day. It wouldn't just be you go to math and you get a lecture, and then you go to science, you do something like that. It would always elaborate and fold into each subject.
Very good. And so what you're basically asking for is a STEM experience across the board, interdisciplinary instructional experience. And so that's work that we're training teachers on how to do. Some teachers are more comfortable with that strategy than others. And so we're training teachers on how to do. And then what teachers have to do, and since you're from Mount Zion, what they have to do is come together and look at their content that they're teaching. And oftentimes it's easier to do that when you build instruction around a particular problem. So we're looking at ensuring that all of our teachers are trained in problem-based learning. And so you will see more of that. We're going to start next year at the elementary level. All of our elementary students will be expected to do problems and research projects, which allows you to spend more time doing more interdisciplinary type projects, instruction, or learning that I believe is more reflective of what you will experience when you go into the workforce. And so more of that to come. We're starting to see that as a STEM district. We're starting to see that, but there is more opportunity for us to continue to improve in that area. And so any feedback, what I would encourage you to have is go back to your school and have a conversation with your what? Principal, because I'll tell you this, they don't need Dr. Beasley to tell them that they can do that. All they need is a vision and an opportunity to sit among themselves and solve and plan for instruction. Everybody can do that, and they don't need the superintendent's permission to do that. You can start with your principal if you want to see more of that. Okay?
Thank you.
Good job.
Hello. Okay. I remember you saying that everyone should get some form of college diploma, and I was thinking, some kids, they go through high school, they're pushed to go to college, but when they do go to college, they don't know what to do. So are there going to be any classes for future students, because, graduating this year, to tell them, what they can do with their diplomas, their associate's degrees, bachelor degrees? Or are you going to push them to get their doctorates?
Well, it would be great if we could say all students are pushed toward a doctorate. My commitment is to get y'all pushed into some type of post-secondary opportunity. Once you leave us, then you got to decide whether or not you're going to pursue that bachelor's, master's, and, PhD. Use science. How many of you use science? Raise your hand. Okay, write this down as an action. We have a tool called Use Science that allows you to determine your talents and your aptitudes and an area that you have more dispositions in. That information can be very useful toward you deciding on the pathway that you want to take. But I want to encourage all of you. I think I saw many of your hands raised when the question was asked, are you in advanced learning opportunities? Are you in advanced placement courses? Raise your hand again if you're in advanced placement. If you're not, then you're missing that opportunity to prepare you for. And so when you start signing up for courses for next year, I want you to start making sure that you take advantage of advanced placement. What about dual enrollment? Raise your hand if you're in dual enrollment. Okay, that's okay. Next year will be a great opportunity for you to start signing up or preparing for dual enrollment. All of these are opportunities, and of course, spending time speaking with your counselors, taking advantage of resources that are already available to you so you can prepare for those post-secondary opportunities. So I want to encourage all of you, as you're signing up for your courses, remember you got to begin with the end in mind. Where do you want to be 5 years from now? Where do you want to be 10 years from now? You may not know, but wherever it is, you want to do well, don't you? You want to think, be able to think. You want to be able to be creative. You want to be able to be, you want to effectively communicate, and you want to collaborate. And so you want to find yourself immersed in those environments that allow you to do that. All of your classrooms are developing those skills, but there are some courses that are taught at what we would call a college level. Those would be your advanced placement courses and your dual enrollment courses. And so if you're serious about your future, your actions have to agree with what you say. That means you need to make sure that next year you're in those courses preparing you for the future that you say you want to have. Remember, what you say and what you do has to come into alignment, has to come into agreement. You can't say you want to be a doctor or a lawyer, but you don't take college level courses that prepare you for college. You can't say it and then not do it. You've got to say it, and then you've got to start doing it in order to get where you want to be beyond Clayton County Public Schools.
Hi, my name is Shane Knight from Moneys Mill High School. What I'm really asking about right now, or what I'm trying to show importance about, is that there's a lack of a lot of things in either Moneys Mill or Clayton County or the entire United States. There's a lack of information provided to students. There's a lack of importance provided to students, and importance shown upon college, and importance shown upon future, and it's all shown way later on than it's supposed to. Entirely later on than it's supposed to. 6 years, I was taught a lot of this in 6th grade. 6 years is not a lot of time. It doesn't matter how young you are, it doesn't matter how old you are. 6 years is not a lot of time. I mean, it's the max you can get, but it'll never be enough time. Especially when everything is hinged upon, like, your future, our future, and everybody's future in America. So, what I'm asking is, why is there a distinct lack of anything for us to push on efficiently? For example, there's no advertisement of any of these programs that you described, or any of these opportunities that you've been giving us in our schools. There's nothing there for us. I understand that you said there was, that would be a problem with our counselor. But at the same time, or even with the principal, but at the same time, a lot of students don't even feel like they have a voice in what we're doing. They feel like they're insignificant enough to just disappear into the system and never be seen again by anyone. So, why?
Well, that's a good question. I would say that sometimes we find ourselves in environments where there's a lot of apathy, where there are opportunities, but sometimes people they're not necessarily self-motivated to find those opportunities, or they don't know exactly, they don't have what we call the agency. They don't know how to navigate and find those opportunities. So what I'm hearing from you is we've got to do a better job, whether it be with our counselors and principals or just what we're communicating with our students at large about these opportunities. And that's why, and we are preparing to do that. Dr. Lee shared with you the Advanced Learning Hub. We'll be pushing that out to all of you. So all of this information will be at the click of your finger. You can go to any of the topics and click on the information. How many of you use your school system's email addresses that have been provided? So we'll push this out to your email addresses. And so I would encourage you. We're hearing you. We want you to be informed. And then so we as the adults, we're doing our part, improving our actions in order to make sure that you all are aware. But as I heard Dr. Simpson say this, as we take you to the well, what's your responsibility? You gotta drink it. But just remember this, if you choose to not drink it, and you choose to starve, or you choose to basically be dehydrated, which impacts the quality of your life, just remember this. There are some other folks, whether they're in Clayton County, in the same high school or another high school, or in another county in Metro Atlanta, or in another state other than Georgia, or in another country, they are drinking the water from the well because they are determined that they are going to navigate using the currency of an education, realizing just like the more money you have, the more you can get in a mall, the more education you have, the better you can navigate this system that clearly is built in a way that gives people with the advantage, the educational advantage. Those with the education get the advantage because that's how the system is designed, whether we like it or not. You gotta understand. You may not like the system, but you got to know how to beat the system at its own game. All I'm telling you all is allow Clayton County Schools to help you beat the system by getting your education. People say, it's not cool to be educated. I'll tell you what, it ain't cool. It ain't cool to be broke. It ain't cool to be unemployed. It ain't cool to always need a handout, especially when you had an opportunity to change your outcomes. It ain't cool. So I don't listen to folks say it ain't cool to be educated and to be smart. It seems like the smart people are the ones running the world, doesn't it? I know that's relative. But I think you missed my point if you didn't hear me. Y'all get my point? It ain't the folk choosing not to get an education. It's not the folk making bad decisions going to prisons. It's not the folk who are not in positions to make decisions that are running the world. Y'all get the point? Now the question is, are you going to be one of those persons in a position to have a positive impact not only on your life, but on the lives of others? Beyond Clayton County Public Schools. Thank you.
There's one more thing. Like I was saying earlier, the importance of, like, when you said, you bring us to the water, we didn't have to drink it, and a lot of people choose, oh, I'm just going to starve here. there's not enough importance upon that. I mean, you give a lot, but it's not enough for a lot of these kids. What they see in the TVs, what they see on the screens all the time. I can be in the streets, I can be, doing sports, I can be a rapper. It doesn't matter. That's what a lot of people think. It's not realistic, obviously, but that's what people think. And they're being held down by that. Obviously, that's out of your control, because you can't control the media. But it would be more effective to push that on at an earlier age, that you can't, I mean, it's not you saying you can't, but try and find something more realistic. Always try and find something more realistic. Because you never know what's going to be in the future.
Good job. Well said. Well said.
My name is Genesis Velasco, and I'm a junior attending the magnet program at Monroe High School. So I have questions regarding the uniform policy as well as AP classes. So for the Morrow magnet program, we are required to wear formal attire on Monday. So in the instance that we no longer have uniform policy in Clayton County, how will that affect the magnet programs that are required to wear formal attires?
They'll continue to wear those expected attire. So if you'll see the recommendation, if the program like Elite Scholars or Morrow Magnet has a uniform component, those principals will continue to maintain those uniform components.
Okay, and in regards to AP classes.
Can't hear you all. You can move without talking. Thank you.
And in regards to AP classes, I know you all try to push us into AP classes, and these are great opportunities, but my concern is I'm currently taking AP Physics, and because of our class sizes, we have almost 40 students in our AP Physics class. And we have disciplinary problems, and just with so many people being in those classes, it's difficult to take advantage of the opportunity that we have. When we have so many students in the class, it makes it difficult for students to learn in order for all their learning needs to be met in such big class sizes, and with, I guess, a lack of resources in AP Physics in particular, because it's a new class at Morrow High School. So I guess my question is, what can we do in order to have a more effective class time in these AP classes when we have, I guess, so many obstacles in the way?
Well, it sounds like we've got several things. Clearly, our class sizes are, and you should know, very comparable to class sizes in other metro districts. Yes. 40 students in a classroom is really not an issue if everybody in the classroom is behaving and there for learning. So it sounds like we need to be having a conversation with the principal to address classroom management strategies, but also making sure that we, when there are opportunities, work on reducing the teacher-student ratio. I can assure you that learning can take place as long as the environment is conducive to the appropriate levels of learning. And so I don't want to merge the class size issue as if that's the contributing factor alone to students being disruptive, which needs to be addressed by the leadership at the school and the classroom teacher as well. One reason I believe sometimes we're dealing with all of this disruption is because we've had such a low bar expectations, and because the bar has been so low, sometimes students are acting out because basically that's their way of distracting or deflating from the real issue, that they don't feel comfortable learning the content at that appropriate level. And so we've just got to do a better job at creating more supportive environments that have high expectations, that also provide students an opportunity to maybe address whatever learning gaps they may have toward being more successful in those advanced placement or advanced learning environments. So I wish I could give you an easy answer for that, but it's not. But we can commit that, and I would encourage you to have a conversation. Have you had a conversation with your principal about that particular AP Physics class? Okay. I would encourage you to follow up with her, and then we're going to do our best and follow up as well. Because we do expect you to have an experience that's not compromised by students being disrupted.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And let me just make one quick announcement. Of course, you can see we extended the time now to 11:30. So those of you who are in line, which we're going to cap the number now, please pose your question quickly. And for those of you who have not had an opportunity to address the school leadership or the school and district leadership with any questions today. Myself and other members of the team will remain behind so we can capture your questions and make sure that we follow up with you via email or with your school leaders. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Morcease from Mount Zion High School.
Talk into the mic.
Hello, my name is Morcease from Mount Zion High School, and I actually have two questions. The first one is, what measures are we going to take for security measures in our schools? Because I know that at many other schools, they have problems with security. So like the police officers there, they're trained for real life situations like, say like a robbery or something. They're not trained to deal with students, adolescents. So what are we gonna do to make sure like they're like a counselor to these students and not just like teaching them and like being so rude towards them? Like, what are we gonna do? What are the measures we're gonna take to fix this problem?
Well, we've already started that process. We started it over the summer because we realized that we had officers who were ill prepared to work in the schools. So we got the NASRO training, and that's the national training that trains SROs. Because our motto is to be less than the O of an officer and be more of a resource. So we've also taken them through de-escalation training and some mindset training so that we can actually have a relationship with you that's not combative. Because we understand the culture and climate in America, my colleagues, we haven't been the resource that we should be. And I don't want you running away from me, I want you running to us when we have a problem. So we put a full multitude of processes in place so that our officers are more of a resource. And we're seeing some positive results of that because the relationships are better and the discipline's going down. So give it a little time and you'll see how that will filter through the school and the relationships will be better and more fostering.
Did you take the survey that we sent out about the SROs?
Oh, I don't think our school received that.
Okay. I think
no, you received it, you probably just didn't have an opportunity. But in the future, because we want to know what you're thinking about. So next year we'll send another one out, and please respond and give comments, etc. But it is my desire that you see it increase and get better as the years go by. But thanks for your comment.
Thank you. And my second question is off of the technology that we use, is like our apps and applications like Odysseyware. A lot of people find that as not helpful. It really isn't. And we also have Achieve 3000. There should be more websites and applications that we can use that is better for us. We have to take these for a grade, and it's like some people just don't understand the format of it. Even if we do learn it, it's still not beneficial for us. So can we work on getting applications like Khan Academy for the students, and do like surveys on things that we can get out and stop putting money into and get things that we actually want to do.
Okay, that's a good comment, and it's probably a bit more. So you mentioned Achieve 3000. Do you understand why we're using Achieve 3000?
Better reading skills.
So Achieve 3000 is a tool. We've got many of our high school students right now. You all are not reading on the high school level. Now, why that is, we can go through a litany of reasons. But the reality is this. Based upon definitions of college readiness, right now, less than 25% of the students graduating from Clayton County high schools are reading at a college level. And so Achieve 3000, while it's not necessarily a glitzy program, it's one designed, if you use it consistently, it adapts and it helps you to achieve that level of reading that you need to have in order to navigate a college level textbook. And so we can talk about, is it the best tool? But whether it be Achieve 3000 or some other tool, the bottom line is this. We have got to take ownership. Those of us who can read, in order to read at high levels, what do you have to do? You've got to read. We have got to read more. Achieve 3000 is a tool to help you work on those skills that are very important to the reading process toward helping our students achieve the level of reading at a certain lexile or at the college level that we know you will need to have in order to successfully navigate a college level textbook. If you have other ideas for programming, and I believe Khan Academy is already available to all of you. So the question that I have, and we can go back and pull up the data, let's make a note of that. Are we using the resource? Are we using the Achieve 3000 to help us? Do we understand why we purchased that, and what do we need to use it for to help us get to a level, a reading level that will help us be more successful, not just here in Clayton County Public Schools, but beyond Clayton County Public Schools. But I would love to hear your thoughts at some point, and you can send me an email or send Dr. Lee an email as to what tools you would suggest so we can look at those tools. Okay? Thank you. Good question.
Hello, my name is Rachel McBride. I'm a freshman at North Clayton High School, and I had concerns about the dress code uniform policy debacle. And it's to my understanding that there's at least one or more board members here, so I want to say something before the meeting on February 4th, which I do plan on being in attendance for, but I know that board members have more interpersonal connection with the other board members, so I want to say that I do understand the importance of uniformity, and that's apparent in programs like the JROTC. I'm a member of the Mighty Marching Eagles. I'm in my school's marching band, so I understand the importance of uniformity, but I feel like uniformity in schools is forcing institutionalism on kids, where it should be more so of a choice, like you choose to be in the JROTC. You choose to be a part of programs that will have you in uniform as a sense of pride, instead of something that's going to present everybody in the same way, because I don't want to be presented in the same way as the person next to me or the person behind me, because we're all, of course you've heard the individuality spiel more than one time, but I feel as if it's important for everybody to be presented.
I don't mean to be rude, but I want you to start from the beginning again with that same comment. And remember to thank the board member. It's recorded. All right. I really wanted it for my personal one.
So my name is again Rachel McBride. I am a freshman at North Clayton High School, and I have concerns about the dress code uniform policy debacle. And I was saying that I understand the importance of uniformity and having ritualistic behaviors, because rituals and cycles are important, but I do also agree that being in uniform should be something that's a choice, as for instance in the case of the JROTC, I'm a member of my school's marching band. We take pride in our uniform, and it's something that we choose to wear, even with Officer Chief Trawick over here, Trawick, I'm sorry. He wears uniform and he wears it proudly, and it's not something that's been forced on him, it's something that he has chosen to pursue. And I feel like those programs are already in place within each and every high school, and it shouldn't be forced on those other kids that aren't built like that, because presenting 2 kids or 100 kids or 1,000 kids in many of these schools' cases, it's not effective for bringing up free thinking and independent thinking, competitive children, because we're all being presented in the same way, so we feel as if we are all, in some sense of the word, the same. So I feel like even though individuality is something that's brought up in dress code all the time, I feel like it's more so important to not force institutionalism on kids, because schools are already institutional. But when you think of uniforms, you can think of it in a positive sense and a negative sense, because in jails, in prisons, they wear orange jumpsuits, and in retail jobs, laborers jobs, blue-collar jobs, they wear uniforms, and that's not the free-thinking, independent-thinking, competitive spirit that we're trying to instill in our children. So why would we put them in the same clothes and shove them off to these schools every day, looking the same, feeling the same? There's no sense of pride in what we're wearing, so why would we have pride in what we're doing and what we're putting out into the world?
This is what I want to say. Come on down so you can do want to say something. He's a board member, so we've got to always give our board members. Let me say this to you. First of all, you need to be a speaker on February 4th. So Jada, make sure she knows how to sign up for speaking. Secondly, I want you to know he's a board member. But what you all are seeing is a democratic process in operation. But remember, it's a democracy. So those who we elect make decisions that impact our lives. So he's going to make a decision with his 8 other board members on February 4th that impacts your life. Now, what you have seen is, tell me your name again?
Rachel McBride.
Rachel has used her voice to make a point to a decision maker who's going to make a decision about her life. In particular, what she'll be able to wear while she's in high school at Clayton County High School. Now, what I would tell you is this is the process that's playing out across our nation at every level, and if you don't get engaged, then this person or persons like him, they make decisions without hearing your voice, and then you wonder, why did they make the decision that I want them to make? But he's going to share with you his thoughts as a board member.
First of all, I have to hug you. My name is Benjamin. Rachel, that was the reason I came here today. Like it was like God woke me up out of the bed and said, get over here. I originally thought that this meeting was at 11 o'clock. And then when I spoke to Dr. Beasley's assistant, she said it's at 10. So I came all the way from Fulton County from work and got over here, and God said, put Rachel at that microphone. I gotta tell you, Rachel, prior to a couple of weeks ago, when doing my research on uniforms, I was like every other adult that felt like I knew the answer to what the uniform policy should be. And I'm naturally going to default to kids should wear uniforms. That's where I'm going to go with this. Kids should wear uniforms. It just takes away from all of the discipline problems and things of that sort. So let's just put them in uniforms, and that'll be the end of that. Then I read an AJC article. And in the AJC article, it had a graph of all of the Georgia school districts. And in that graph, you were able to put your mouse over any county. And every single county that didn't require their high school students to not wear uniforms was in a white community. When it came to the black communities, we were all required to wear our uniforms. So let's go back to what you were talking about as I was sitting up there. So I'm up there and I'm thinking, yeah, I'm swaying more towards that vote that says, let's have faith in our high school students. Let's believe that they're going to do what they need to do to represent us in this community. That's where I wanted to go. But then when Rachel got up to this microphone and said, Benjamin, exactly what you're thinking, while you're on that edge, she closed the deal. Because how could we not have faith in you? How could we not have faith in you when they got faith in their communities? How could we not have faith in you to do what Rachel said? Rachel, you're 100% right. Because where I come from in Brooklyn, New York, what Dr. Beasley said earlier today, most of the dudes I see wearing uniforms are orange uniforms that are in jails. And you nailed it. Lastly, what Dr. Beasley just said, sweetie, don't ever, ever, ever silence that voice when you're as articulate as you are. You need to be in the face of every single person putting together your presentation to say, stop for a minute and see it through my eyes. Thank you so much.
All right, we got to get y'all out of here. All right, you all. Well, I'll hang around. I have a few minutes, so I know we got to get you all. The buses have got to get back because, and this is why it's important that the buses get back, because our elementary students get out first, and we need those buses to pick the children up to get home. And so, this will not be our last opportunity to have this conversation. But we've given you all some things that we'd like you to do. You should continue these conversations with your peers. Remember, it's not what others think about you. It's what you think about who. I want you to think well of yourself. And if you think well of yourself, then you will do well by yourself. You will do well for yourself. Do well. Take advantage of these opportunities. We hear you, and I want you all to know we hear you. I hope to see you. If it's important enough for you to be there, if you have an opportunity to be there on February 4th at the board meeting, when a decision will be made by your 9 board members of the Clayton County Board of Education relative to uniforms for 9 through 12 students next year. Whatever the outcome is, it will be the democratic process in motion. We will live with whatever outcome they vote on. Whatever they decide to do, we'll live with it. But just remember, you as Rachel demonstrated today, you have a voice. You have a voice in this process. And when decisions are made about your life that impact your life, you need to make sure, whether it be in Clayton County, at the Capitol, at the state, or in Washington at the Capitol, you need to make sure that you know what's going on and that you exercise your right to be heard. Thanks, everybody. We look forward to seeing you the next time, and I'll hang around in case we can answer some of the questions that you all may have individually.